some new stuff. We're going to talk about detox. We're going to talk about health and weight and anti-aging. And, you know, I research stuff all the time. I'm an avid, am I in the right spot? I'm going to try not to move around too much.
Yeah.
I'm a huge researcher. Almost every night I'm watching a podcast, a YouTube, looking up something online. And not only is it stuff that I hear about, like I'm going to bring up Christine Page in a minute, but it's stuff clients ask me about. So clients will say, hey, have you heard about C60? And then 10 of them ask me, and then I'm like, I got to look this up. And then sometimes I'll try stuff. Sometimes if it's multi-level marketing, I usually just, not interested. Just because of the cost and layers of stuff, I just generally don't get into MLM stuff. And then I try a lot of products and do a lot of things that never even gets out to my clients because they don't do what they say they're going to do, or the label has a bunch of junk in it, or I find out something about the company. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of history on C60 because what I did not put in the emails and the newsletter, and a few people here did not see that anyway, is that a lot of people were telling me about C60. I was seeing it on people's Twitter and amazing things. And I actually originally bought it for my dog because my dog Macy is 14 and she lost her hearing. She was having skin issues and she was basically lethargic and sleeping all day, mostly I think because she couldn't hear. And she was actually kind of acting depressed. And so I bought it for her, but I thought, well, if I'm going to give it to my dog, I'm going to try it. And some people were like Lynn's husband, and Lynn and another lady in Sweden, and a few other people were like, oh my gosh, what is this stuff, and wow. And I didn't have that experience, actually. It took 3 weeks of me taking it before I saw anything. But what happened was about 3 weeks into taking C60, 2 dropperfuls in the morning, I just started waking up earlier. And I wasn't having a surge of energy. I was just waking up earlier and I was done sleeping. Now, if anyone knows me very well at all, I am not a morning person at all. I get up between 7 and 8 in the morning because I don't like mornings. And I'm a night person. I can stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning researching stuff and be wide awake. But then it's hard for me to get up, you know, unless I'm going on a flight or going on vacation. Then that's pretty easy. But so I just realized I was waking up at like 6:30, done sleeping. And there was just like, I wasn't like wired, but also wasn't tired. Then it was 6, then it was 5:45, and then I was like, I better start going to bed earlier because I kept waking up kind of early and earlier, but done sleeping. So then I was like, okay, what's going on? And I was alert, and I was doing stuff. I mean, Ruth will tell you, we have went through 3 rooms of my house and completely reorganized, got through stuff. I'm tackling my garage next. And it's like 9 o'clock at night, when normally at 8 o'clock at night I'd be like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to watch TV or just get my mind off of something. And I'm like tackling boxes that have been sitting for 2 years since I moved back from Colorado. So it wasn't like the surge of the caffeine surge. It was more of, well, I still have energy to do stuff. Well, what can I get done right now? Which is like awesome. And since it wasn't a surge of energy after about 6 weeks, so that was from 3 weeks to 6 weeks. So at 6 weeks, I kind of thought, well, I wonder if this is wearing off. Like, since there's not a surge, it's kind of like, but it's not like that. It's like that's the new norm. Because a few people said that after the first batch of people that kind of took it, they said, well, we noticed something like in the beginning, but we're not noticing as much like now. It's been a month. And I'm like, were you still like have energy? Are you still getting more stuff done? Are you still more alert? Yeah. Well, it's still working. It's not like a caffeinated surge. So sometimes, like for me, I noticed I'm still getting a lot done. My brain is super focused and super sharp. But since there's not the surge, it feels like maybe you don't know, like, is it still working or something like that. But going back to my dog, her hearing is completely restored. Her skin issues are completely gone, which I had tried everything. I had tried vet stuff. I had tried natural vet stuff. I had tried natural stuff. Nothing was working. And she's bouncy. Like when she goes for a walk, she's like, prissy and jumping and happy. And I mean, her whole demeanor's changed. And before, where she couldn't hear me in the kitchen, now she's back to, she hears the refrigerator door, she's back in the kitchen like shopping, wanting a snack or wanting something. So I know she can hear because she couldn't hear that before. I could actually sneak in the kitchen and eat, and if she didn't smell it, she wouldn't come looking. But now she's hearing the oven or the refrigerator, so I know that, you know, and her personality is back. Where I think she was, you know how people are hard of hearing or deaf, they get kind of depressed. Yeah. So then, anyway, that's that story. And so the original study, the only other thing I want to tell you about C60, because most of it's already been like what just happened, is everyone's different. And so some people, even like 5 people were telling me they had like a spiritual experience. And that they felt not high, but kind of like high. I don't know how to describe what they told me, but they kind of said they just felt like meditation was even better. They felt more spiritually aligned. And I don't know how you feel that. Like you can't explain that to somebody unless you have that experience. And I didn't personally have that experience either. So some people were saying that even after just like 1 dose or just like after the first or second day. And I was like, well, that's pretty cool. It didn't happen to me. But also, if someone is really sick, okay, let's go back to some other things to know. It's olive oil. So if you have an issue digesting fats, if you know that, you know, you have fish oil and there's like a oily thing in the toilet, you're not digesting fats. Some people just poop fish oil right out intact. That's not good. But also, if you don't have a gallbladder, or if you have known liver issues, if you have a lot of skin spots, that's a sign of liver distress. But if you don't have a gallbladder, which a lot of people don't, you might need that extra support, like a digestive enzyme for bile or digestive enzyme when you take the olive oil, because it is olive oil. So if that would be weird or not good, like you would have a problem like digesting ribeye or ice cream or, you know, just basically any kind of fat, you might want to take something for that. But the other thing is you can apply it topically, and I still haven't done it yet because I actually have never been able to have a second bottle because it was selling so fast that I didn't have a bottle for myself to put in the bathroom. Now I have 2 bottles. But what I just started recently doing is putting it on my face at night, and it literally takes 2 drops to cover your whole face without it being super oily because it's kind of thick. And I put a second pillowcase on my pillow because it does kind of, if you put it on right before you lay down and your face is smushed against the pillow, I would probably put a second pillowcase. I have one of my bottles here, and it looks like this. And I don't know, this is pretty easy, but somehow it becomes complex. It's a large bottle, and the dropper is like this. And if you sit there, and it kind of runs out, so I don't even count the drops. I just draw up as much as I can get, and you see it kind of drips. It's kind of messy. Let me try to take it. And it tastes like olive oil. It's not bad. But I put this on a paper plate in my cupboard, and you're supposed to keep it out of light. Don't leave it on your kitchen cabinet. You can put it in the refrigerator, but I like it room temperature. But it is messy, you see? I'm not making a mess, it just kind of dribbles. And then on my dog, their food in the morning, I split, each dog gets half a dropper full. Now, what I was gonna say though, is if you're really, really sick, you would want to start out maybe slower and build to more, because the more sick you are is usually the more toxic you are. So someone that's really, really ill or has cancer might need like 6 dropperfuls a day, you know, to really get this, because it does a cellular detox. Athletes can do 6 or 8 dropperfuls a day. And this is something too that I noticed. I've never been a runner in my life. I've never been a runner in my life, but because of not muscles, but because of breathing. And what I've noticed taking C60 is I don't get winded at all. Now, why that would do that, I don't know. But most of the things you see online is that people's endurance at least doubles. If they're normally a runner that can run 3 miles a day, they're now running 6. If they normally did the treadmill 30 minutes a day, they can go an hour without stopping because of what it does to the body. So at least the studies show it doubles endurance. Like pretty quickly. Like some of the testimonials say that they took it just for a week and they could double their mileage. That's pretty impressive. And then the other thing I was gonna say is that some people are just always cautious about everything, or they're super affected by things. Of course, common sense says then just start slower. Take half a dropper full or build up. I take 2 dropperfuls a day. I did increase it to 3 recently just to see if I saw a difference. I felt the exact same. So then I went back down to 2 because I thought, well, if it's the same, you know, why go the extra mile? So just before we get off of C60, so it's $50 here, and it's gonna be $55 after the workshops because, hey, so it's gonna be $55 from now on because my cost on, I mean, that's like even cheaper than on the internet. Oh, what I was gonna say about research though, is the research shows that the original research was done on olive oil, okay? And it comes in other oils, like sunflower oil and, what's the other oil it's common in? Coconut oil, yes ma'am. And so, I haven't tried those. And I don't know if they work as good or not. They're actually more expensive than the olive oil. So it's hard to find a 4-ounce bottle for $50 or $55 even on the internet. But what I was gonna say is all the research was done on olive oil, so that's the one I chose. And then I looked into a few companies, or a few companies contacted me after my email went out that are people I know and saying, oh, well, try this one, or oh, try this one. But they were all more expensive and not in olive oil. So I thought, well, why would I do that? Because I've had results with this product. I haven't tried those other products. So anyway, I'm sticking with this one because I like it. And I know a lot of people have sent me additional information, and that's fine, but I like this one a lot. And they've really been good as far as, you know, working with me. It takes 2 weeks to make one bottle because of the carbon process. So it's not like they're just sticking olive oil in a glass bottle and shipping it to me. They put carbon in the olive oil. They stir it consistently for 2 weeks with these automatic stirrers, and then they extract the carbon because the carbon at that point has changed the molecular structure of the olive oil to carbon, so the carbon has then been removed. So you're not really getting, if it had carbon in it, which I've seen it before it's extracted, then it's black. So it's stirred, it changes the structure, and then the carbon's removed. So you're actually not drinking carbon, which is the same as what's in charcoal.
Gwen,
No, she said.
I know it depends on how many drops you were using, but around how long does the bottle last? Or?
One bottle, it's lasted me about 6 weeks.
Okay.
So it's about 6 weeks. Okay, I want to just, before we get off the topic, because it is seem like a miracle, but I want to read 3 testimonials because they're all a little bit different. Also, someone like Ruth's age, you know, the studies on mice and stuff shows it extended lifespan by 90%. So if a mouse or rat normally lives 6 years, they doubled. It almost doubled their life expectancy. But if I'm 55. So if I'm 55, it's not gonna necessarily make me live to 180. Let's say if I was gonna be 90, because I'm starting later in life. So it kind of, so it doubles what I have left, if you know what I mean. That's what the studies show. If someone like Bryce or Ruth start taking it now, they could maybe go to 160 or 180, based on the research. But the older you are and start, it doesn't mean don't do it because you're older. It just means it's not going to double your whole life expectancy when you start at age 60. It might give you 10 or 20 more years, depending on, you know, the health of your body anyway. And this and the hydrogen water are kind of like miraculous. And a lot of the studies are showing that if you do them, you really don't need much else. You don't, like a lot of people come in to see me and they bring, you know, shopping bags from Whole Foods and they're taking 45 supplements and they're like, okay, this is what I'm taking, what should I do? And I'm like, okay, throw those away. You know, I did that already anyway because I think that's kind of silly. You know, they'll take all these individual minerals and all these individual vitamins and flax oil and all this stuff, and a lot of times they're duplicating things because they're getting things from 3 different places and they all have potassium in them, they all have calcium in them, and then are they being absorbed because they're hard pills, which makes me have to tell y'all the porta potty story. But I wanted to first read I'm going to tell you about pills and why they're not a great idea, but I'm going to read these testimonials real quick. So one of the testimonials is from Bucky Labs, and it says this person's been on 4 months of the Bucky Labs C60. It says it's very much like an additional layer of support. Everything you do is slightly enhanced by C60. You always feel the extra energy and rejuvenation properties. He says, I've been going to the gym 3 times a week for the past month. The big shock was I really didn't have a work-in period. I got there one day and managed to do a regular workout, which I had been doing for 3 years, which he had to work up to initially. and he expected that he would hit a wall sooner or later, yet he never hits his wall. So he's just basically working out till he's out of time. Because before there was a wall that said, when I get to this level, I have to stop. But now it's like, okay, well, I've been here, I'm not hitting the wall, so I'm done. It says, my strength will take some time to return to what it was when I was more consistent. However, my cardio seems to be at its peak like all the time. You just can't get to the peak. He says it's like just an additional layer of support. The second testimonial said, not too much of a surprise, but my appetite seems to have slowly decreased, as well as food intake, although this is balanced by increased olive oil intake. The slow increases in strength, endurance, and probably the most ripped he's ever been is another exercise testimony. Exercise regimen hasn't changed much. But I've noticed too that my appetite is different. I'm not trying to change my appetite, it's just different. You know, like I just need less food, or it's not as big of a deal, you know, and again, I'm just taking it in the morning. But I'm even noticing that like at night, you know, like 12 hours later. All right, and then this one's a little bit longer, but I like this one. This one is this person saying, to be honest, we didn't know if we would feel anything at all or there would be a pronounced effect within hours. And this is what some people told me too, that they actually saw a difference within hours. It's a husband and wife, and they've been suffering from inflamed sinuses, just being annoyed by sinuses, visibly swollen. In about an hour to an hour and a half after taking it the first time, this wife had the swelling in her face had remarkably reduced, and she realized that she could breathe through her nose much more easily. That was totally unexpected given they'd been mowing the lawn and doing yard work. Her inflamed sinuses also visibly reduced and continued to do so for several more hours, and her breathing was noticeably easier. Over the rest of the day, she noticed the pain and stiffness in her left knee had remarkably reduced, and they were feeling like more energy for the rest of the day. That night, the entire family was off to Hooters for her son's birthday, and they noticed higher energy levels throughout the evening and eventually went to bed around 11:30 p.m. They woke the next morning, the sinuses were still better, and the guy says he slept really well for a 56-year-old man, and he didn't have to get up to go urinate once, which was not normal for him. So in one day, this all changed for this, you know, couple in their 50s, 56. He says, I'd been drinking the night before, and usually that results in 2 to 3 trips to the toilet. That was fantastic in itself, but just as good was that when I woke up, I didn't have the immediate urge. My knee, which is usually quite stiff in the first few minutes of getting out of bed, was fine. It felt like my right uninjured knee. When his wife came downstairs, she commented that her left hip, which had some arthritis, the morning stiffness was better after going up and down the stairs, and she had no problems coming down the stairs the next morning. So it's also like, why would that do that in just one dose? That's kind of pretty crazy, right? And so, anyway, if you go online, there's like millions. I won't go through the rest of them, but that's like basically the story. So I want to tell you guys, because this has to do with pills. A lot of people don't realize that when they take so many pills, and sometimes pills are necessary just because they are necessary, but because you can't get something in a liquid or the liquid tastes really bad. But when I was in Boulder, someone has anyone heard this porta potty story?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The septic tank?
2 people know about the urine, collecting urine.
Tell it.
Okay, so when I was in Boulder, I told her at the Dowsers group, that's why Catherine heard it. The owner of Porta Potty was the chamber spokesperson, and I was like, I don't want to go listen to that. Like, you know, it was not an interesting speaker in my opinion, and this woman insisted because she had heard him talk before, and I thought, especially over lunch, like, what is he going to say that's really going to get my attention? And so, anyway, he was one of the best speakers I've ever heard. What I found out about porta potties is that they are urine collection points. They are not elimination collection points. They are to recycle urine for beauty products. So when you go to a festival or to a concert or to the rodeo or to whatever, porta potty wants your urine because they want to strain it and drain it and sell it to pharmaceutical and cosmetic companies. And if you see any word on an ingredient that looks like urea, it is urine that porta potty collected somewhere. But so they don't even care if they rent those things because all they want is urine. They don't really make money on the rentals, but that's how they resell urine. Because how do you think the urine ends up back in drugs? It has to come from somewhere. It can't come from the city waste. So anyway, what he said was pretty remarkable that I did not know until that day. He said that when the porta potties go back to their facilities and they're emptied, they go through a process where, you know, poop and toilet paper and pills are all, you know, categorized. You know, somehow it goes through a straining process. So the pills are very small. They go through, like, you know those coin things, and it puts your dimes and quarters and pennies in the right thing? And basically, porta potty has a similar setup. And it sorts all your stuff. And there's one vat, or one big vat, that is pills. And most pills, he says, still have the name on the pill. And he names Centrum and One-A-Day specifically. So they're like basically come out and they're intact and they're in this big thing that porta potty ultimately throws out. But he says also many medications still have the serial number. You know how like a heart medication will have like a 234 something number, or an R234 to identify the drug? He said most of the time that's still intact. It didn't even, your stomach didn't even get through the enteric coating to take what's on the pill off. And if any of you have ever taken Intramax, which is my favorite liquid vitamin, it says not to take it within 2 hours of medications. It's not because Intramax will deactivate your drug. It's the opposite. Intramax will make your drug more effective. So if doctors and hospitals and pharmacists know that there's about a 4% to 10% dissolve ratio on a heart medication, and then you take it with Intramax and you got 100% absorption ratio, you just made your drugs 10 times more than you had been taking. So a lot of people think the opposite. They think that Intramax makes it not work. It makes it work way better. And that might not be a good thing, because if you were on a thyroid medication, you'd be like, you had too much caffeine if you took it with Intramax because of the absorption. So this is something to know about pills. So when someone takes 25 pills in their mouth, gelatin or veggie caps or whatever, that gelatin, y'all know what it is, right? It's like beef gelatin. It's like Knox unflavored gelatin. People don't think about it, but that's what it is. It's a beef product. So when they take a bunch of pills and they can't digest beef very well, that goes through unopened, you know, because the body can't digest all that, especially with some coffee and some eggs and bacon and whatever else they do for breakfast. That is like a mess. And so that's like basically wasting money, I think, personally. So these liquid products are going to be way more noticeably beneficial than, like, you know, you saw when I put the olive oil in my mouth, it just kind of soaks in. It's like I'm not swallowing it, it just kind of gets in the body and it just goes, you know, it's just there. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. Okay, does anyone have a question about C60 before I go to, and that was a pretty great talk about porta potties, Ann.
Can kids take it?
Yes.
And any age?
Any age. The only thing that they say is not a good idea, only because they say this about everything with pregnant women, is they say pregnant women shouldn't take it because they've not researched C60 on pregnant women. But pregnant women should never detox, and it does have a detox quality. So I would not take it if you're pregnant. But they say that on herbs and everything if you're pregnant, which is just, like, to me, common sense. Okay, the second thing I want to demonstrate is my hydrogen water.
When?
Yes.
Be burnt, like Sophie. You give it to a dog, like a dot on.
I don't know about birds. I mean, they've said dogs and cats and horses, but yeah.
So,
If
like how
olive
much would I
oil
put on
isn't
her
bad
food?
for them, then I would say it's fine.
yeah, so how many drops should I?
Well, she's pretty big, so I'd put like a fourth of a dropper, something like that.
Wait, Gwen, and it with sleep, you were saying how it like revs you up and gives you energy. Does it make it hard for you to fall asleep at night?
At first, it was a little challenging because I had so much energy. Now that's kind of tapered off to where, but I'm going to bed early. I used to be a night person, but then I kept waking up early, and I was like, okay, now it's 10 o'clock, I'm tired.
So you take it in the morning. You
Yeah, I
can
don't
have
take
trouble
it.
falling asleep at night.
At first I did, because I was still like ready to do stuff.
I've been taking it for about 3 weeks, and I don't have a problem getting to sleep. I used to have a problem getting to sleep, but I don't notice it.
And most of the testimonials say that people sleep better.
So you had trouble getting to sleep without it.
100%.
Yeah, sleep better, sleep sounder. I turned on my heater in my bathroom the other night, and normally I wake up at least once or twice, and I slept all the way through the night till the next morning, not waking up for anything, and my bathroom was like a sauna. It was like 180 degrees in there because I thought I'm gonna turn it on and then I'll wake up sometime and turn it off, and I actually shorted out something in my house because I left it on, but it's because I was so sound asleep, and that's not normally me.
And then one more question with it before you move on is, are there any medications, like if I am on a thyroid medicine, are you not supposed to take it?
C60 doesn't say that. I was using Intramax as an example. You can take it with medication. It's the Intramax that you're supposed to wait.
Right.
Okay, so this one is hydrogen water. Now, this is mine, and this is Buddha juice because that's where I get juices from. And what you do with hydrogen, and this may sound weird because everybody says, wait a minute, H2O, I mean, why are you doing hydrogen? You know, like that seems, even I was like, wait, what? Anyway, all you do, this is like really simple, and it's less expensive than C60. They come in little tablets, and it's basically hydrogen in a pill. And they're gray, so sometimes I like leave a little gray residue on the bottom. You fill up your water container, and it has to be glass. It cannot be plastic. And you fill it, I overfill it to where it's like coming out the top, so it's like filled right to the top. You put your hydrogen pill in there. I just dropped one.
It's right.
Okay, and then you cap it for 20 minutes so no air can get to it. So you have it completely full to the top. And then after it says 20 minutes, it's ready. And then once you open it and air gets to it like it just did, I have to drink it in 20 minutes. Okay, and you're supposed to do 2 a day. I've been doing 1 a day, but you're supposed to do 2 a day. And the benefits are like C60. Like I would even say pick one if you want to try something new after today. The benefits are almost identical as far as anti-aging, and I'm going to read some of the benefits to you. But what most people don't realize is that in the world, wherever there's been these sites where they've said the water is holy or miracle water, like in Lourdes, France, or places like that, it was very high in hydrogen. So they've tested these waters in parts of the world where people had miraculous healings that had access to the water, and that's what they realized was the trick. That they weren't holy, they were high in hydrogen. And so, yes?
Okay, so this is not called heavy water, is it?
No.
Okay.
And this has nothing to do with pH or anything. One thing you can do, and I haven't done this yet either, but one thing you can do is they say if you put your minerals, your liquid minerals in the water, that it's like times a million. That you can put a very small amount of minerals in your hydrogen water and get super absorption. Like you can use a lot less than you normally would use and drink it down because your body is going to just suck it all in.
You should do that once a day?
I've been doing once a day. Now, I did do a second one in the afternoon not too long ago because I was showing someone how to do it. And I noticed that I did have a little problem going to sleep. But I did it like late in the day, like 6 p.m. And I was like, wide awake. Like, okay, did you notice that, Lynn?
Oh yeah, not in the evening, no.
Yeah, don't do it in the evening because you'll be like, and you're not wired. That's the thing is you're just awake.
But you just have energy.
Yeah, you could go like clean the whole house that you've been putting off forever. I mean, it's really quite amazing. And strength, I mean, I can't say now that it's this because I started the C60 way before, but also my strength is much more. Like I had felt like, you know, kind of like when you're anemic, you're kind of weak. And I've been like carrying stuff around and doing stuff and like carrying pots. Like when the freeze was happening, I have these huge Mexican pottery pots and they're heavy as anything. Normally I don't think I'd even be able to maneuver them, and I'm like, whip that around here. I was going to read some of the health benefits of the hydrogen water though, because one of the things I think that I like about it a lot is that this is 16 ounces. And if you do 2 of these a day like it's recommended, you're basically getting 32 ounces of water you weren't getting already. And you're getting it in a way that is just super good because you're getting more hydrogen. So you're like drinking this miracle holy water twice a day that you weren't doing before.
So it's okay to take it with C and C60,
I
do
am.
both. Okay, you're just saying if you're going to choose, if you don't do them both, just do at least one.
I'm only saying try one first maybe so you can see how you feel. And if you try both at the exact same time, you may not.
You're not know.
You're not going to know what did what.
But it's beneficial to
Oh
go
yeah,
ahead and do it.
I'm all about anti-aging. If I can reverse a little bit, I'm happy with that. But it's about the sleep and it's about the energy and getting things done and everything. You know, so it's not just anti-aging. I mean, you know, if I can
Gwen, what
live
type-
over
What type
100.
of water did you put that in?
I have in my house, I have a reverse osmosis with mineralization, and I fill it with that water, and then I put the pill in there. I
Yes.
probably wouldn't do tap, but I guess you could. And if you're gonna use bottled water, I'm gonna show you the thing with bottled water in a minute. I would pour the bottled water out of the plastic container into a glass container. What are you gonna say? Someone?
The Kangen, it's not the Kangen machine.
You can use that. I mean, just not tap water. I would not use tap. Okay, so let me read a few of the things, because the list that, actually the research on hydrogen water is even more than the C60, because of, you know, what, some of the things I told you about, the experiments they did on the water. And they're saying that the health problems that are mostly benefited by hydrogen therapy include atherosclerosis, which is the arteries, ischemia type stuff, which is like heart attacks and strokes. It has huge research done on diabetes, on correcting type 2 diabetes, stress-induced cognitive impairments, like when people can't think straight when they're stressed out, like kids taking a test, Parkinson's and other neurological diseases, metabolic syndrome, which is insulin sensitivity, glucose tolerance. It's when your abdomen circumference is bigger than your hips. That's usually the definition of metabolic syndrome, when your waist is bigger than your hips. It does like this amazing, both the C60 and the hydrogen water are supposed to be like 10,000 times more antioxidants than any other antioxidant. Like more than goji, more than mangosteen, more than vitamin C, more than pomegranate, you know, more than any other known types for killing free radical damage, which is where the anti-aging comes from. It helps the body absorb nutrients, it aids in circulation and digestion, it helps regulate body temperature. Now that's why I did start adding this in addition to C60, because I've been on thyroid medication to some degree or some dosage since I was like 28 years old. So I'm super interested to see if this regulates my body temperature to where I don't need that. Detoxifies cells, it improves blood pressure, decreases headaches, arthritic symptoms, back pain, and chronic illness, lubricates joints and muscles, and keeps our mind alert, with the brain being 70% water, needing hydration to function. So if someone's like ADD, ADHD, comprehension low, can't focus, I would definitely consider. Hey Pilar, were you locked out?
No.
Okay. Everybody say hi, Pilar.
Hi, Pilar. See you.
Hola.
Okay, for other benefits, it says it eases the negative side effects of radiation treatment for cancer. It's actually used in cancer therapies as an alternative therapy as well. What it's beneficial for in the body parts are kidneys, brain, eyes, lung, auditory system, pancreas, liver, intestines, heart, and the nervous system. That's pretty much everything. The implicated disease states that it can correct are arthritis, asthma, or breathing disorders like respiratory issues, dermatitis, gingivitis or gum disease, cancer, heart attacks, trauma like a concussion because of oxygen, retinal damage, liver injury, and low libido or sexual dysfunction. And the last thing I'll say is the other benefits are reduces fatigue, it helps remove toxins, it lowers saturated fat levels, it aids in lowering cholesterol levels naturally, it gives younger, more radiant skin, better skin hydration, improves skin tone, like the creepy stuff and the, what they call it, the waffle pattern, improves joint mobility and faster recovery from physical workouts. And I'm going through like 20 pages of stuff I put together in my research, and I'm telling you 1/10 of it. I mean, if you go online and you look at every condition that it helps, it's really amazing. And these are like $30. This is $30, and I think it's a month's supply. Well, it's 60, so it depends on if you do 1 or 2 a day. Okay, any questions on the hydrogen water? Do you see this, Pilar, what I'm using? Pilar brought me these juices, and I'm using my Buddha glass jar. Any questions about that? Okay, so water is not considered all the same, and I want to show you guys a few other, like these are like little tricks or little things. I just have to find the pH strips right here. people like tell me, oh, I drink, 6 bottles of water a day, or I drink however many bottles of water a day. Most people don't drink enough water. I just read a research thing. I'm doing, this last year in 2017, most of you don't know this, I was focusing on animals the whole year, on work sets for veterinary animals and personal, like domestic pets. In 2018, my focus is going to be on the weird and unusual stuff. The people who are sensitive to electromagnetic fields and electricity and computers and solar flares and all that stuff. That's going to be my focus for 2018. And I was just listening to a podcast this morning, and the guy was saying that one of the best preventions against cell phone radiation and all the stuff that we're exposed to is hydration. He said hydration is one of your best defenses against stuff that's like bombarding us. And if all of us looked at our cell phone, and we have 30 possible Wi-Fi connections in this room, because we all do, because we're in the middle of Houston, they're cutting through us. They're all coming through this building, they're coming into this room, and we can all be affected. And it's affecting kids that are autistic, it's affecting kids that are ADD, ADHD, and they can't focus, is because they're very sensitive to electromagnetic fields, especially younger people. But all water is not created equally. Now I know that most people buy cheap water because it's cheap. But if you're buying cheap water, which, Lynn and I, or whoever said, we have RO systems in our homes, and I think mine was like $300 from Home Depot with remineralization. They're not hugely expensive. I did have to pay a plumber to plumb it in, but they don't have to be thousands of dollars, like Kangen is thousands of dollars. This is a good system too. But I want to show you on pH strips that and Dallas water and Houston water are actually quite different. I've tested both. But Ozarka is a pretty popular brand of water that a lot of people drink. It's pretty inexpensive. And if I test the pH of the water, it doesn't change, which means bad. So do you guys see this color? Well, you can't see this so well, but there's a color thing on the pH strips. And this is the most acidic you can get. So if this is 5.0 water, and you're supposed to be 7.0, it means the water is 200 times more acidic than you should be. So if you're drinking 6 bottles of Ozarka a day, you just added to your acid levels. You didn't fix your acid levels, okay? So it's like drinking, it's not as bad maybe as a cup of coffee, but it's not really much better. So this is like where I tell people, like Dasani, Deja Blue, those brands are all acidic. And it's worth to spend a little bit more money on good water, because if you're drinking acidic water, you're making your joints hurt, you're making your digestive worse, you're making the heartburn worse, you're making your acid reflux worse, you're really not helping yourself. I brought another water. This one's Nestle, and then I brought a Fiji, which is what I drink if I'm out and about. The good waters, by the way, are Evian, Fiji, Penta, Mountain Valley, Mountain Valley,
Essentia. That's good.
Okay, so let's see what this one is. I actually haven't tested this. I just grabbed it because I had it. It's the same as Ozarka.
It's the big companies, even
That's
like
messy.
Dasani, they're owned by what, Coke or Pepsi or?
Yeah, and the other one, Deja Blue, is owned
Exactly,
by
one of the other-
Pepsi.
right.
The other one, let me have that bottle. So I'm just gonna dip it in there. You can just be able to drink it. Which one is this? Simple Truth. No.
Nope.
And then
Smart water.
huh? I haven't tested smart water, but I'm guessing bad.
There's a good video on YouTube. It's called pH water test. It's like 6 minutes, and they test all these water
This
bottles.
is your water. I'll
It's
test
super
it.
good.
I'm sorry, what was that?
It's called pH water test. It's a YouTube video, and it's 6 minutes and 58 seconds. But it's a super good video that has like all the water bottle brands, and they test them. I thought it was interesting.
Okay, I know Fiji's good because I've tested it before, but I'll just show y'all.
I wish they put it in a round bottle.
I know, it doesn't go in cup holders, really
Yeah,
good
just
when you
wish
buy
they
the
put
big
it in
ones.
Gwen, what's your opinion on plastic?
Well, they almost all come in plastic, but you see this one's gonna change, and this one's gonna go into green. but the other ones are not. The other ones, they could sit there all day. Like, you'll see this one change because it's what it's doing. These that I sat down, they're still yellow. They're not gonna change if I let them sit here all day. This one's gonna change. The more green it is, and especially the more grass green it is, the higher the pH. Okay, so just keep in mind, I mean, you know, there's even water delivery, like Mountain Valley is a water delivery that comes in glass bottles, and that's actually preferred if you wanna have home delivery. I have my own RO system, so I don't have home delivery, but if I did, in my old office, I used to have Mountain Valley delivered, and they come in 2.5 gallon containers, and also you can buy them at Whole Foods, or I don't think the regular grocery stores sell it, but so I'll buy these in like a 6-pack, or if I'm traveling, like if I end up, like let's say I go to Vegas or something, I'll go to Whole Foods first, pick up my bottle from my hotel room, and take it with me. You know, you can't really travel with water very easily if you fly, but it's my first stop always is to get my water. I'm gonna try that water. I haven't tested this. Now this is my RO water with hydrogen in it.
But it's been open for 20 minutes, right?
Yeah, I should have drank it already. Now see the Fiji? I mean, this is a big difference from that to that, which, you see? Can y'all see it very good? Let's try the hydrogen water though. By the way, Dallas water is more alkaline, but it's because they put stuff in the water to buffer the acid.
Katie water.
I know the water guy in Dallas, the municipal guy. Let's see what this does. But this isn't touting that it's alkaline water, it's just hydrogen water, so I don't know what this will do. But if you test Dallas tap water, you'll get green, actually, because of the buffers and the calcium phosphates and stuff they put in their water. Yeah, it's not really changing. And I don't know if that's from the hydrogen or what is going on there. Okay, so that's it. Water's not created equal. So you should be drinking half your weight in ounces of water a day. And sometimes people's fatigue and mental acuity and things like that just changes just by being hydrated. And so if you weigh 150, then that means you should drink 75 ounces of water a day. So half your weight in ounces. And if you drink tea, coffee, or soda, you have to have more water because those are more dehydrating than everything else. So you want to make sure that you hydrate more. And if you're an athlete, you sweat, you go to saunas, you drink more. So half your weight in ounces is the minimum, not the maximum. You can't OD on water. And if you have any issues where you just feel like you're just always peeing it right through, one trick is to take a pinch of Himalayan salt or a few drops of maple syrup in the water, and it will help you it'll make you have your own electrolyte drink. Don't buy like Gatorade or the sports drinks because that's crap. And it's also very acidic. So you can make your own by lemon, Himalayan salt. Himalayan salt's high in minerals and potassium and iodide and stuff like that naturally. Or maple syrup. Honey too, but I like maple syrup better. Does anyone else have water they want to test? Because I can pass these around.
Test this, I'm curious because it's lemon water.
Yeah, it should be more alkaline. Oh, it's hot lemon water. No, it's fine.
But I did use it with my big bottle of
Ozarka.
Ozarka.
I'll sit right there and you can watch what it's going to do.
Gwen, you want to test this?
And you can test other drinks. Oh, this is a green drink.
Yeah, I've got,
Oh, it's very alkaline.
yeah, I've got a special filter called triple alkaline, and it's
This
got
is very
plankton
alkaline.
and algae and minerals in this.
Well, that's a good one. You might, what's your filter?
You know, I've got like a $3,000 counter thing that I can triple like 15 plus of the alkalinity,
And that's the water you're using
Yeah,
in
that's what
there?
I'm using here.
Yeah, it's very alkaline.
Yeah.
It changed like super fast. Okay, do you want to man that, Joe?
happy to.
Okay, so can you
Because I'm a man.
Can you just in Google put in small intestines and pull up images? A lot of people don't really know how this looks or how it works, but I want to show you guys. Okay, so now go to images. And I'm going to tell you where modern medicine gets kind of messed up. Okay, do you see this picture right here?
Mm-hmm.
Or this picture? All right, when you guys, how many people know what colonics are? You've done or know of colonics. Okay, so how many people have heard of a colonoscopy? Most people, okay? So when someone gets a colonoscopy, this is probably a pretty good image to use. When they do a colonoscopy, they're scoping, oh, there you go. they're scoping this 2 feet of your colon, okay? So they've put a camera in here, and they went around that. That is 2 feet out of 25 feet of your intestines. So they've just basically told you that 1/10 of your intestines are healthy. Don't worry about colon cancer because this part is healthy. Okay, well, you can see the problem there. Also, when you get colonics done, they're irrigating this same part. Okay, they're irrigating 2.5 feet. So the way the intestines go is this is ascending, transverse, descending, and this is this outer, bigger colon. Now, your colon, this big part, should be about the width of your thumb. Now, this may sound like a weird story, and I don't know why I know this, but when John Wayne died, his colon width was 18 inches. His colon had stretched because of impaction and plaque and buildup to 18 inches. That's why he was like a pretty big, girthy guy.
Carrying like 30 pounds, I believe.
Yeah, 30 pounds of dried up poop in here. Now, a lot of people tell me, oh, I'm fine because I poop every day. Well, when you poop, this is a weird topic, I know, but when you poop, you're pooping this much, right? You have this much and then 22 feet in here of backed up poop that hasn't come out yet. Okay? So when you poop, most people's poop is that big or smaller. You have a bunch behind it that hasn't come out yet. All right? And when you're doing a colonoscopy, oh, by the way, when you do a colonoscopy and they say they see polyps, polyps are parasite nests. They're the cocoon for parasites. Now, doctors don't have an effective way to deal with parasites for humans. They do with dogs and cats. They give you pills that are like Raid, basically, to kill them. But they won't do it for humans because they're not FDA approved. So when they say you have polyps, they're like, well, we're going to ignore that because we don't have a way to treat parasites in humans. So we're just going to tell you have polyps, but we're not going to do anything about it. But what no one addresses is this small intestine. Now, this squiggly part inside is 22 feet. This whole thing is 25 feet in a normal person. So your large intestine should be the width of your thumb. Your small intestine should be the width of your pinky. But they get expanded because of debris. Now, one of my instructors early on was Bernard Jensen's son. And Bernard Jensen is like the father of colon health. And what Bernard Jensen said about the colon was, he did like colonoscopies, but he also did colorectal surgeries and, surgery for colitis and ileitis and all these conditions. And what he said was sometimes when he would go in and do surgery and remove a section of the intestines, like they do in colitis sometimes, that he might cut out like 6 inches here, and this person may have come into surgery being a paralyzed person or an MS person, and they would wake up from surgery and not be that way anymore. And for a long time, for his whole career, he never understood why. He said, I know I cut out this, but why can they walk now? Why can they see now? Why can they hear now? And late in his career, he's dead now. I heard the story from his son. But what happened was when he was late in his years, like in his 70s, most people have to go through continuing education and take these classes. Most doctors get kind of bored with the same old lecture in their field, so they start just going to random stuff. Sit in the back, they're on their phone, they're reading stuff, journals, whatever. And he went to one on embryology. And when he went to the one in embryology, he got his answer. And the answer was, when we're formed as babies in the fetus, the first thing we are is a feeding gut tube. So when we're in mama's womb and we're tiny, and we're like a peanut, it's the feeding gut tube, and then everything emerges out of the feeding gut tube. So we have that original gut membrane everywhere. Our whole body emerges from our gut. Because the first thing we have to be fed from mom. And then when we're born, we're fed, and they cut the umbilical cord, but that is the original feeding gut tube. That's why when someone has a sick colon, they can have headaches, they can have migraines, they can have skin issues, they can be paralyzed, it can all come from the gut, because this is where it all starts. And mostly the small intestines is ignored because they can't scope that because it's too crazy. Can you pull up, look at this image. This is actually more what it looks like in your tummy. But if you're there, can you imagine trying to send a camera through that? They can't. So when they say you have to get a colonoscopy and that's your oh, you're good, you're fine. No, because they can't see all this. And if there's parasites in here and there's food and junk, there was another story by Bernard Jensen that was pretty crazy. There was a woman who did a colon cleanse, and when she was a young girl, I guess she liked to eat everything she saw, and she had a bad habit of swallowing her gum. She did this colon cleanse, and like strips and chunks of things that were like hard rubber came out, like solid plastic objects, Barbie things came out, stuff. I mean, this is a 50-year-old woman who did a colon cleanse, like Barbie shoes came out in the toilet. Chunks of things that were rubber, because it was all this gum that had accumulated over time that stuck, and she lost about 12 pounds of just colon cleansing, because once all this stuff came out, that was like permanent weight loss, because it was like John Wayne. It was, instead of 30 pounds of poop stuck, I mean, she had toys and gum, but you know, you think, how would that be possible? But I know when I was a kid, I swallowed gum. You know, a lot of people swallow stuff. Little kids, I have a granddaughter now, and she's putting everything in her mouth. She wants to put chalk in her mouth and crayons, and don't kids do that? You know, but how long is it in there? You know, so what no doctor is going to say is to cleanse this. They don't ever talk about cleansing this because they really don't have a solution themselves. So I'm going to talk about that right now. If you don't do anything as far as detox goes, like if you just say I'm just not going to do it, this is one thing I would do. And I do it every year, and I do it twice a year. And to me, it's like maintenance. Like you do a tune-up on your car, you do a tire rotation, you do an oil change. This is for you. Like we do all that for our car, and we don't do these things for ourselves. So I have two favorite products, but I brought one, and it's oxy powder. And this is it's like, there's another product very similar to this called O2. It's like chelated, oxygenated magnesium. It goes into the colon, well, it goes into all this because it's coming in through the stomach. You take 4 before bed for 1 week, super easy cleanse, and it blasts everything. I have some friends that affectionately call this their blowout pills because it bubbles and it eats away that plaque, and you eliminate it the next morning. It doesn't wake you up in the middle of the night and you're not going to the bathroom all day. It's like a next morning kind of thing. If at the end of a week, it liquefies everything in its path. And at the end of a week, if someone's still eliminating chunks, they need to do it longer. If you're 40, 50, or 60 and you've never done a colon cleanse, you might need to do it 2 or 3 weeks because of the built up debris, the built up gum, the built up Barbie shoes, whatever you've been doing. And the more we've eaten unhealthy diets, like non-organic and processed foods, the more this is even necessary. But it helps with everything. It helps with parasites. It helps with people who have any kind of issue with elimination or constipation. It's super easy. And 1 bottle will actually be enough for like a couple or even a whole family because there's like 120 capsules and you only need 28. So it'll last like more than 1 cleanse. Like it would work actually for a family of 4.
Gwen,
So
what if you miss a dose?
if you miss a dose, you just do a day longer. And some people, like, I would not do that on vacation, personally. Like, and I'd probably start on a Friday so that you know how it's going to be Sunday and Monday. You know, like, you don't want to maybe start on Monday morning and you have an 8 a.m. business meeting. Like, I would not do that, but see how it's going to go for you. Because some people have even said, if I do 4, I'm just like, it's too much. Well, then do 2 for longer. You know, do 2 for 2 weeks instead of 4 for 1 week. It's still going to work. You know, but also, if you have a job that you're out in the morning early driving, that's hard because just make sure you're not in some remote place you can't go to the bathroom. For me and most people, it's like you wake up and you're going to have 2 or 3 bowel movements, and the first hour you're awake, and then it's kind of over until the next day. It's not going to go on and on and on. But if you're the kind of person like a guy who wakes up, doesn't have to take time to do anything, rushes out of the house, you don't have that hour in the house like most women have to shower and get ready.
Okay, a couple questions. So I take stuff to help with this issue anyways, like even magnesium or this bowel cleanse thing, and then I'll get like a decaf coffee with a little caffeine, and that seems to be how I go. If you do this, should you not take anything else, and should you not have coffee in the morning? Or
You can have coffee in the morning as I do, but you can, I wouldn't take anything else because you're not going to need it.
Okay.
If you take like a Cascara or Senna or Smooth Move or one of those Laxacomfort or something like that, you won't need it, I promise.
Okay, and then if you take your medication at night, should you space it?
It doesn't work that quick. I don't space it, but you could take it, you know, a little bit different. And that's why I say start on a weekend and try to experiment with it. But if you're taking like a calcium magnesium at night, maybe not just in the same swallow, maybe take one or the other. I'd probably take the calcium and stuff an hour earlier maybe.
And then is there a different kind of magnesium is this magnesium?
It is a type of magnesium.
So is it different than like what's in magnesium calm or magnesium?
It's an oxygenated magnesium.
Yeah,
it-
don't they, like Whole Foods sells one that's called CO2 or
O2, I think. Or no,
you can just buy it at a store.
MagCalm.
Yeah,
But that's not
Mag O2.
exactly the same thing, but it's similar. That's
Okay.
more of a constipation solution or people who have spasms, but it's not oxygenated magnesium the same. I've had people try that or they take it nightly to sleep or whatever, but it doesn't give them a colon
And then so
cleanse.
doing colonics are you kind of saying it's basically a waste because you're not getting everything, you're just getting that big part?
I'm just saying that you're ignoring 22 feet.
Right.
So I'm not saying it's a waste. I think I like colonics personally, but you're just not addressing any of this.
Right.
And so then you still need something else. And by the way, after you do oxy powder, most people say they feel different, like with going to the restroom and regularity and elimination. But if you don't, you can still take it one before bed as needed. So if you didn't have a bowel movement all day, you can take one before bed, and that will also take care of that.
Mm-hmm.
So you can use it as a maintenance issue.
It's really good if you've had like a super heavy meal, also to take it right after, not right before bed. Just take it right after.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, one other thing that's kind of more of like a home experiment, but I'm gonna talk about it because it's something I keep on my kitchen counter. It's actually completely dissolved now, but so this is Himalayan salt water. So Himalayan salt, actually salt water also purges, but it doesn't do a colon cleanse. So I want to explain the difference. So this comes in these 2-pound boxes of chunks of rock salt. And granulated sea salt or granulated Himalayan salt does not work right because you see mine's all dissolved. I really need to put another few chunks in there. I just grabbed this off my kitchen counter. You also have to use glass. You can't use plastic. Okay. You have to use glass, not plastic. But you dissolve the Himalayan salt in good quality water. And just like if you guys have ever done southern seafood like crawfish or shrimp boils, they put it in salt water first to purge the poop out of the fish and shrimp. Well, if you drink salt water, it's going to purge. It's going to empty you, which in one way is like making things move, but it doesn't eat away at the debris. So it doesn't work the same way as this. But why would someone do this? Because salt is a natural disinfectant. In history, before there was refrigeration, before there was all the chemicals and all the preservatives, salt was how you cured meat. Salt is how you kept things without refrigeration. And salt will kill fungus, candida, and parasites better than anything. I used to do a lot of parasite cleansing and candida cleansing and all this stuff. No, just salt. Because salt takes care of everything but viruses, bacteria, parasites, all that. And it's so easy. So what you do is after you let your water and salt, this becomes something called Soleil. You open it and then you take just a tablespoon out, put it in your glass of water, drink it, and it kills everything that shouldn't be there. So to me, this is also kind of like a once a year thing. A box of the salt will last also a family for like 2 or 3 years because it's 2 pounds. You're not going to go through this very quick. It's generally recommended to do this for 60 days because 60 days, parasites have a 60-day cycle. They start out as the full-grown worm, but they also have larvae and eggs and stuff that rehatches. So if you don't do this long enough, you won't get the full benefit.
So 1 tablespoon a day for 60 days?
1 tablespoon twice a day.
Can you put it in that water that you make?
I would not, just because I don't know if it would explode. I don't know what that would do, but I would be careful. But
Not the explosion I want.
Pilar,
I started smaller than 1 tablespoon.
yeah. The more candida you have, so let me tell you some candida things to tell you if you have candida. If you have candida, the common symptoms are allergies, dandruff, dry flaky skin, toenail fungus, fingernail fungus, jock itch, vaginal infections like history of, really any skin issues and allergies, especially sensitivities to molds. Being allergic to mold is also usually a sign. Being allergic to penicillin is usually a sign of candida. People who have like chronic breathing and respiratory issues usually have candida. People who crave sugar and carbs like fiends usually have candida. If sugar and all that stuff is on the shopping list and you cannot go a day without it, it's usually, if I said, okay, today everybody we're gonna give up carbs, and you look at me like you're freaking nuts, you probably have a candida issue. Like if you crave them and you cannot stop, like no matter what, even if you know they're a bad idea, you usually have a candida issue. But like Pilar said, you do want to start slow, because the more candida you have, the more this is going to cause a purging. And so when I do salt and I haven't done it for a while, what usually happens is I feel a little queasy, and it's because you want to do always oxy powder first, because if you don't have a clear channel for candida and toxins to come out, and this gets backed up, you're gonna be not happy. You're gonna feel like, ugh. And then once you go to the bathroom, you go, oh, I feel better, I'm happy again. But you wanna make sure this is clear first, because if you don't, you're gonna make yourself kind of sick. But Himalayan salt is a great, I even recommend it for people that are, get sinus issues or they get sick. And if you buy the Himalayan salt, I give this little nose spray bottle. This is like the best thing. Like, you just put your Himalayan salt in here and to clear up your sinuses, and it dries up all the mucus and sinus stuff. By the way, do not use Zicam, like ever. I've had a group of clients that have used Zicam and they permanently cannot taste and smell anymore. Because Zicam does something weird to zinc receptor sites, which control taste and smell. So there's class action lawsuits if you look online against Zicam for people, and one of my clients, her husband's a chef in Houston, and she cannot taste or smell anything that he cooks. That has to be the worst thing in the world. I don't know what sense I'd say I don't care if I lose, but taste and smell is a big one. I don't want to lose anything, but I don't know. It just sounds horrible, because then you're just eating to eat because there's no taste. But it doesn't happen to everybody that uses Zicam, but it can happen. So use Himalayan salt, in your nose. You can use it in a neti pot, like instead of this. Neti pot, like, and this works basically the same way. But it's such a great thing. So how many people know Dr. Mann? Does anyone know him? I know you do. He actually showed me something that I want to share. About 10 years ago, when my office was in the Heights, he came by and he had taken a sliver of kombucha, which is a fungus, and he had fed it the equivalent of 1 cup of sweet tea per month. So he had poured a cup of sweet tea in this sliver of kombucha that was in this, Pyrex kind of dish. And over 6 months, it grew to the size and texture of a large turkey breast. It was solid, it was meaty. When you touched it, it felt like, how a raw chicken breast feels? It's firm. That's how this kombucha had grown, and this was 1 cup of sweet tea a month. This is why eliminating carbs does not kill fungus. Because if 1 cup of sweet tea made this thing grow from a kombucha sliver to this big, that's not very much carbs. We have more than that in one day. Apples or any kind of sugar or whatever. So then what he did for 6 months, he always does kind of weird experiments, but for 6 months he didn't give it any sweet tea. And he had been weighing this thing. It did not decrease by 1 ounce by having no carbs for 6 more months. That's why body ecology diets and stuff do not work. Because as soon as someone eats a carb again and they flare up, it's because they never got rid of the candida in the first place. They might have made it not grow, but they didn't fix it.
Right.
So then what he did, so then I asked him, because I saw it after it had not been fed for 6 months. And I said, well, now what are you going to do? And then he said, well, I'm going to go home and dissect it. And he dissected it into like 10 pieces, and he put it in separate dishes. And I wish I had that here to actually pass around. It would be the best thing. And he took the 10 samples, and he put the most common anti-candida things on it. So he put like cat's claw, una de gato, he put pau d'arco, he put, I forgot what else he put. Those are kind of the common ones. And he put salt. Salt was the only thing that killed it. Now, there's lots of anti-candida herbs and cleanses out there, And he tried like those pills that are combination candida cleanses, and he emptied them. He tried homeopathics in some of them. Nothing killed it but salt. That's why I only use salt now. It's not that I don't know about other products, but after his little home experiment, I knew that that was the only thing that was going to work. And it's so cost effective. You know, it's so cost effective. Cindy?
So that was like the SCOBY in the kombucha that he was growing. So is it not recommended if you have candida to drink kombucha since it's like a
People
wild
ask
yeast?
me that, and I hate to answer, but I would say no.
Okay.
Or if you have cancer.
If you have cancer, no. But if
Wow.
someone is drinking kombucha and they're eating carbs,
Yeah.
to me, if they're not getting it out of their system completely, they're kind of feeding it.
Okay.
And cancer is fungus, so you're kind of maybe adding to the problem. I don't. Ever since his little home experiment, I have not touched kombucha. I don't have a personal opinion about it because some people love it,
Yeah.
and some people make it at home. But I personally cannot ever drink it after I saw that thing. I just, you know, when you see a visual of something and you go, I can't do it. So
Okay.
I think it's a personal decision, but I know there's health benefits to it, like gut health and stuff, but I couldn't do it.
So you said 1 tablespoon.
Twice a day.
Twice a day. And then what about for kids?
You work up to the same, so I'd start with like 1 teaspoon once a day, then go to 1 teaspoon twice a day, and then go to 1 tablespoon, and then 1 tablespoon twice a day.
And
You're
how
putting that
long?
tablespoon in, I'm sorry, in a glass of water, you're not just.
Yeah, you're putting it in water, and then down in the water.
And you said to do that, you said you do that once a year?
Once a year for 2 months.
For 2 months, so
Uh-huh.
do it daily for 2 months.
Mhm. Yeah, just as an overall cleanse, like for parasites, candida, and bacterial stuff. If you are a person who has bacterial infections, or you have skin issues that are bacterial, or you have yeast infections, or you have the dandruff, or any of the things I just mentioned, you want to definitely do that cleanse. And besides this little squirt bottle for your nose, you can take a regular little glass bottle, don't use plastic, but just a spray bottle, and you can spray your scalp, like after you shower, to kill the dandruff. You can spray your toenail fungus. You can pour this water into a dish and put your toes in it where you have a toenail fungus that you've had a hard time getting rid of. I had a guy that was a hospital maintenance man, and he ended up getting a staph infection from the hospital. And they got to the point, and it was on his middle finger, and they got to the point they were going to amputate at this first joint because they had put him in hyperbaric. They had done everything they could think of, and it was a MRSA staph infection. And I told the wife, I said, try the Himalayan salt. Like, if they're about to cut off his finger, what have you got to lose? And they had been battling it for a year. It fixed his finger. I mean, we're talking about a MRSA thing that wasn't responding to anything else. So it's awesome. And if you start getting sick or nasally or congested, just
So in the nasal spray, you're saying use the sole and not just the salt water? Use
it's
that
the same
super-
thing.
Oh, same thing.
Yeah, this is salt water. It's
But
called.
it's super saturated, I mean, that whole rock in there.
Yeah, it won't over dissolve either. So I don't want to open one because these are the only ones I have. But this comes in a 2-pound bag of chunks like this. So you're putting like 5 or 6 in here, and then you're filling this with water. And then as your rocks disappear, they won't disappear overnight because they're only going to do to the perfect Soleil saturation. So then when your rocks are gone like mine are, I need to add more in here because they won't over dissolve. They'll dissolve only to the perfect consistency that you need.
Right.
Right? Okay. And then when your water gets low, like right now I could add water and salt to get it full again. You know, but I was sick recently, so I was doing this and it's kind of getting empty. Okay, any questions about that?
Yeah, I want to get off track. I do the MMS, I started doing that. Can I put that in either one of those? 'Cause I'm like doing so many waters now.
No, MMS I wouldn't mix. That's another thing. It could be explosions. I did bring one other catch-all that I want to talk about because it's good for many other things, and it's hydrogen peroxide. So this is not hydrogen peroxide like you buy in the drugstore. This is concentrated 35%. What you buy in the drugstore is 3%, the one in the brown bottle. This is actually considered a poison. You cannot ship this without having a hazmat thing. I can't mail this to clients. You have to get it from me in person because I don't have a hazmat permission. But it is so awesome. I mean, this bottle will last forever because you're diluting it 10 times to use it for anything. But you can use it as a cleanse. I use this with cancer patients. I use it with people who have skin issues. It's also a good rinse for your fruits and vegetables. You know, like you buy stuff at the store, instead of using the stuff they sell to cleanse your vegetables, you just pour a capful in your sink full of water, and it takes all the residues and pesticides and chemicals off your fruits and vegetables. You can use it to clean everything in your house. You don't have to buy a single other household cleaner. You can use it to clean your bathtubs, clean your toilets. It will, do not get this on your skin.
Actually, it burns you.
It burns you. I actually got some on my skin this morning. One dripped on me, and it will eat away your flesh. So do not do that. I mean, and you have to go wash it with soap and water really quickly because it's super, super, super strong. So if you get some on your hand, go wash it right away to stop the burning. And you don't want to let it be where kids or pets can get to it, because, you know, for me it's on the top shelf of my utility room. But it's very potent. But it comes with this little instruction thing of all, you know, how to do it. But some of the things it's used for is athlete's foot, for douching, enemas, foot relaxer, facial, mouthwash, nasal spray, toothpaste, denture soak, deodorant. Beverly, you might want to try it since you're having a reaction to deodorants. For your pets, deodorizer for everything, even for skunk. It has a recipe to use it if you got around a skunk. Marinating and tenderizing your meat, leftover tossed salad, kitchen cleanser, freshener, disinfectant, dishwasher, laundry, and getting rid of mold. Also, you can use it as an insect spray, house and garden crop spray, fungus and mildew, on roses and vegetables, and hot tubs. I mean, one bottle will also last a long time because you're only using like so little.
And you can use it internally as well.
Yeah.
I was
Well,
gonna say, I
Gotta be
think I
careful
have
with that.
some
I actually put it
that
in my
I ordered.
smoothies.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, actually, I super oxidate my smoothies.
Well, there's a recipe for that, how to build up to the protocol, and anyone that I work with that has cancer has to do this protocol. You start with, you know, it says 3 drops 3 times a day, and then the second day 4 drops 3 times a day, and you're building up. But, you know, it's like something, because if fungus is cancer, and if it kills fungus, which it does very effectively, it kills cancer by default, okay? So, and this, anyway, there's nothing else to say about it. It's just like the one product that you can have in your house to do so many things. Like all these things are like that, you know, there's not just like one great thing out there. There's lots of great things. And MMS is another one. I don't have MMS anymore because it was getting so much bad attention. But, you know, and I just made the decision to stop selling it because I didn't need the bad attention. But all the people that were selling MMS were kind of getting attacked by the people who attack people. You know, like the doctors who treat cancer naturally. I just didn't want to be in that group. So if someone calls me, I'm just saying, no, I don't have MMS. I have it for my personal use, but I don't have it to sell to people, right? Laura's laughing.
Is that
she
the
knows more.
organic sulfur?
No, that's the citric acid and the sodium solution that you mix together. It'll cure malaria, Lyme disease.
Jim Hubble's.
Yeah, Jim
Jim
Hubble.
Hubble, exactly.
That's MSM.
So if you're,
MMS.
MMS.
Well, the sulfur, the sulfur one, she
Oh,
said.
wait.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
if I'm taking that, do I need the others? Or,
They're not gonna do what C60 and the peroxide's gonna do, but you wouldn't need that in peroxide. I mean, you wouldn't need that in Himalayan salt, because there's like one group that's this anti-aging super duper stuff, and there's this other group that's like the catch-all shotgun approach for disinfecting your body. So you have 2 different groups.
so if I'm doing that, I don't need the salt.
No,
Good.
I wouldn't do the salt too. Okay, any questions about those things? Okay, can you pull up a picture of a liver?
Yeah.
Okay.
On the, oh, sorry. On
No, go
these cleanses, do you recommend doing those before you begin doing C60 or the hydrogen water?
To
Or
me, you
do
can
it
do
at
them
the same time?
separately.
Uh-huh.
I would do oxy powder with anything because
Uh-huh.
it's nighttime, and the other things are like daytime. To me, they're just in the different category. I wouldn't, by the way, that's a good question, because I wouldn't do colon cleansing and any other cleanse at the same time. I would finish your week of colon cleansing before I would go into salt or peroxide or liver cleansing or any other specific cleansing, because you want to not put too much stress on the body. Okay? So that's a good picture right here. Let's go to that picture first. Okay, this is where the liver is. You see it's quite large. It's like here. And our liver is just like calf liver. You guys have all seen cow liver at the grocery store. It's spongy and it has that texture that's like a sponge. Our liver is exactly like a cow liver, and it's big. It's one of our biggest organs next to the colon. And you see where it sits. And so sometimes when people have that roll right here, you have that weight that's like below the breast and above the belly, that roll that sit-ups don't work, that's because of your liver. If that's enlarged, you can do a million jillion sit-ups and that's not gonna fix this because this is your liver. But the other outward sign of liver issues is skin. If you have a lot of freckles and spots, you know, like this is kind of dumb to me for women to go laser that stuff off because that's coming from within. Then you go laser it off, which costs a lot of money, and 2 years later you got all the spots back. So in the décolleté, the face, people who get those spots like reaction to birth control pills, you know, they get those, what's that called? Yeah, but it's called something, like when they get it on their face and it's because of birth control pills, because the liver has to deal with the birth control pills. If they get like the spots on their hands, and the things that look like birthmarks, but they're not birthmarks, that's all coming from the liver. But it's really this enlarged part right here that if that's going on, you know you need to do a liver cleanse. Also, if you guys get any blood chemistry work done, like if you get a CBC done, you have to write this down because I don't have this written down anywhere for you, is that you want all your liver numbers to be under 26. So that's ALT, AST, and GGTP. And that's on everyone's blood work. Everyone's CBC has those 3 measurements, or most people. And
Under what?
26 or under. If it, doctors will say, and LabCorp will say, you're okay under 52. But this is the deal. At 52, that's already at sick. It's sick at that point. There's something they want to do about it. They're going to say you have fatty liver, or you have liver disease, or you have liver stuff. 26 to 52 is in the range that you can still prevent liver damage. So if you're above 26 and under 52, there's lots of things that you can fix with those numbers, but you really want the number under 26. So 26 is in natural health, the number we look at, not 52. If you're above 52, they're going to start talking about cirrhosis, they're going to start talking about fatty liver, they're going to start talking about more serious issues. Okay, so 20, but you don't want to go with that number. Because, you know, doctors don't care about your kidney numbers or liver numbers until you're at a disease point. And they want to medicate you or put you on no alcohol or put you on special diets or whatever. We want to look at it way before it gets to that point. So there's a few things you can do for your liver. So if it has like spongy tissue, will you pull up this one next? So you can't really see it too good, but here's a gallbladder. And this is connected actually to the pancreas. It's also connected to the stomach. And you see this thing right here, it looks green because bile is green. But a lot of times what they do when they take your gallbladder out is they just snip that off. And that's bad because the gallbladder helps the body secrete bile. And bile is necessary for protein and fat digestion. If you don't have a bile, then you can look at 5 to 10 pounds a year weight gain just because of not digesting fats. You can also have high cholesterol because you don't have a gallbladder to break down fats and proteins. So the solution is to take bile. You can buy ox bile or some kind of bile product, that's one called Bileman, that you have, like my sister hasn't had a gallbladder since she was 16. She has to take Bileman forever because you're not gonna grow back your gallbladder. So if you don't have a gallbladder, you have to do something about it. Now, this big spongy part is like, you know how Dawn soap is kind of known famously for degreasing, you know? Well, lemons do that really well for the liver. So lemon water, like Terry's hot lemon water over there, is one of the best things you can do to degrease the liver. And one of the things that happens with the liver too, there's this weird Hershey chocolate. Has anyone heard about this Hershey chocolate liver story? You have? You've heard all my stories, Captain, or all everyone's stories. There was a guy that was this is a true story like John Wayne. There was a Hershey salesman that died early in life, and they did an autopsy because he had died so young. And when they did the autopsy, his liver was so enlarged, it was like 3 times the size of a normal liver. And they had never been diagnosed with anything wrong with this liver. And when they dissected the liver, it smelled like chocolate. Like they literally said it smelled like chocolate. But what they realized was, if you guys don't know this, chocolate has a lot of wax in it. Because wax is what keeps chocolate from melting in transport, like in Houston or the warmer climates, or to get from Europe to here. Wax is what keeps it together. And what are we doing when we eat a lot of chocolate? Not the 97% pure, good, dark chocolate, but the Hershey bar, the Hershey Kisses, all that stuff. We're accumulating wax in our liver. And it accumulates, and what, does the body know what to do with wax?
No.
No. It's an artificial thing, so the liver holds it and holds it. It's like the gum in the intestines. It holds it and holds it and holds it to where if this is, you know, this big, now it's like this big full of wax. This is what this guy's liver looked like. And what they realized was he was eating a lot of samples, a lot of the chocolate, because that would be very abnormal for like a 30-something-year-old guy to have that much wax and chocolate in his liver to cause that problem. That's actually what killed him, was his liver basically wasn't functioning. But he was too young for anyone to run any tests to really figure that out. So when you do lemons, it doesn't mean like a wedge of lemon. It means like 2 whole lemons a day. So 2 whole lemons or 3 or 4 limes, depending on how big they are, in water. Hot water is preferable because it has a cleansing action. So before you do any other liver work, I recommend that you do a month or 2, really 2 months of lemons. And what's amazing is your skin will completely clear up. Everything that you want to have lasered off or taken off or whatever will just be completely gone. Every time I do lemons, like I get freckles pretty easy being in the sun. It's just my complexion, but my skin like right now is pretty clear. But it won't be like any freckles. They'll be all gone. So you don't have to laser anything. Hold on.
I've seen on the internet where people are using like a Vitamix and doing the whole lemon,
Yeah, that's
not
good too.
just the lemon juice. Is there a benefit to the
Yeah,
peel?
there is. That's a Mediterranean thing, and I'm glad you brought it up. There is a more of a Greek Mediterranean thing of taking a whole organic lemon, and in that case it's important for it to be organic because of the skin. You grind it like in a bullet or a Vitamix, and then you refrigerate it because you're not going to consume that whole thing in one sitting. It actually is really tastes good. I usually do it with 1 packet of stevia, and it ends up tasting like those lemon ices because the stevia makes it kind of sweet. And you take like a tablespoon at a time out of your refrigerated ground up whole lemon. It's the rind, the white part, and the juice and the seeds and everything. And it does the same thing but more potent. So it's just more potent than just lemon juice.
So are you like making a juice out of it?
It
or
becomes
are you-
pasty. The
Okay.
white part of the lemon and the rind make it pasty. It's not.
Yeah, because I tried putting one I've been sick to do a lemon ginger shot with the whole lemon.
No, you have to
And
do
it
like
just
4.
clogged my whole juicer up.
No, I do it in a Vitamix, or a bigger thing, but I put 4 or 5 because 1 doesn't work because it's too small. You have to do like 4 or 5.
Yeah, no, I took my juicer and cut it up
Oh,
and
no.
put it through.
You have to do it in a Vitamix.
Okay.
Because it turns out pasty,
Okay.
but it's another way to get lemons in. So after you do a lemon concoction for 2 months, then you can do like a liver cleanse. Now there's 2 liver cleanses I recommend. One of them is a 2-part Dr. Christopher's thing. It's called Liver Transition Liver Gallbladder, and it's pills you take for a month. Another one that's online that's pretty famous is Hulda Clark's Liver Gallbladder Flush, which is basically olive oil and Epsom salt. Now, if that kind of grosses you out, I did it once and I hated it, but you basically do lemon and olive oil for like 24 hours, and that olive oil and the lemon and the Epsom salt purges everything out of the bile duct. So what will happen is you'll fill up your toilet with little green things, because everything that's blocking your bile ducts and everything that's in the bile ducts comes out and it purges you. Now, if we had the intestine picture up again, if those intestines are not clear before you do a liver cleanse, it's not going to come in your toilet, it's going to come up.
Ugh.
So most people that say, oh, I can't do the Hulda Clark thing, I got sick, I vomited the whole time, it's because they didn't do a colon cleanse first. If you don't have a clear channel, you have no business doing any cleanse until you do colon cleanse. So, but it is effective because it's just 1 weekend. You don't have to do pills for a month.
Your battery's
Power.
done.
Oh.
You need power on your laptop.
Just need that's right here. Oh, at last. Does someone know what time it is?
2:38.
2:38. Okay. There, thank you. So the liver, important to soften it first and then go for the cleanse. If you're gonna get sick from a cleanse, it's gonna be the liver cleanse. When I didn't know what I was doing, and I used to have my health issues, and I'd go right for liver cleansing, it would be the thing that would make me feel like I had the flu. I mean, it'd be like stuff coming up and tired, and I couldn't get out of bed, and I was like, oh, it's making me worse. It's not making you worse. It's getting toxins out. So when the liver starts dumping toxins back into the bloodstream, your body has to re-experience everything you've ate and drank for 40 years. It doesn't just go poof and disappear. It has to come out. So that's why people get sick. That's why they start having stuff coming out of their skin. And again, with any of these cleanses, the more toxic you are already, the worse your experience is going to be with the cleansing. It doesn't mean the cleansing's bad. It just means you're very toxic, right?
Can you go
said you
back
wanted
to
to-
the lemon thing? If like I'm still not liking stevia. What other sweetener would you use?
You don't have to use a sweetener. I did because I liked it, and I did it with 1 packet of stevia with like 5 lemons. So it really wasn't sweet.
Would you put a little maple syrup in it, or?
You could.
Okay.
You don't have to do anything. Some people love lemons and
No,
like it
it's
just
too
fine. Yeah, you could use something else.
Okay.
So I had written down that you'd said soften the liver. So is that the lemon water, do that for 2 weeks before you do the cleanse? That's softening, okay.
That's softening.
Okay.
It's kind of breaking things up. Like I've used Dawn soap as an example because Dawn soap cuts grease or fat. You know, in dishes, like that's kind of known, or
Okay.
different things, and doing the lemons does the same thing for the liver. All right, but the liver will make you the most sick of all cleanses, I'll just tell you. And you should not also start it on a Sunday night or Sunday when Monday's your big day at work, because you may call in sick. And be nice to yourself. If you need a nap, if you need to rest after work, if you need to do that, then do that. Because everyone's experience with liver cleansing is different. And I don't tell people that to scare them. I tell them because you need to be ready. You need to, like, don't call me and say, oh, I'm doing this and it made me sick. Well, that means it's toxic. Good. You know, it's getting stuff out. Right? Okay, can you pull up kidneys?
Absolutely.
You're a good computer operator over there.
I'm just here to serve.
Okay, good. I need all the help I can get. Okay, so this is a good picture of the kidneys, but let's go to where they are in the body. Maybe that picture, but it's not great because it doesn't show both of them. It shows one kidney. Oh, it shows, yeah, right here. Okay. Yeah, go back to this one,
Okay.
the other one. See where they are? They're here. Okay, like if you're looking at your back. Now the thing, okay, so you see where the pelvis, the sacral, the hip bones are, and you see they're above that. So I can feel my top of my hip bone right here, and then you come up another 2 inches. So what will happen with the kidneys is people will have pain here. When the kidneys hurt, you're in bad shape. But the kidneys are like right there. So if you ever have back pain that's like right there, like mid to lower back, you're usually having a kidney issue. And the kidneys are usually affected mostly by being too acidic or not enough hydration. But this is what else the kidneys do that people don't realize. Diabetes is more about the kidneys than about your diet. The kidneys have a direct connection to the pancreas right here. Hannah Kroger said that the kidneys are more responsible for diabetes and high blood pressure than the heart or the pancreas. So if your kidneys are sick, and they're little, they're like the size of big lima beans. They're not this big organ like the liver. They're little. So they're like here. But when they get overloaded and people start talking about calcium deposits or uric acid crystals or kidney stones, they're little bitty guys to start hurting. But way before you actually have pain here, the other things that the kidneys affect is knees. Are you all right?
No, but I'm gonna fix it.
Okay. Feet pain, especially gout, low back pain, hip pain, knee pain, vision, shoulder pain, did I say neck? Yes. Vision and hearing can all be kidneys. So a lot of people don't realize that even their vision going can be just their kidneys. And hair loss can be kidneys, and hypertension and diabetes. So if someone tells me they have hypertension, diabetes, knee pain, and gout, all of that is just their kidneys. They don't really have 5 different issues. They have one issue, and it's this, but it's mostly hydration. Then the person will say, oh, I don't like water. I don't drink water. I drink a pot of coffee a day. I haven't had a glass of water in 20 years. Well, what do you expect? You can't live, your body can't function like that. It's pretty resilient for a long time, but it really can't last too long. So you want to baby the kidneys. So the thing that the kidneys like the best is lemons and limes again, and anything that when you juice it, you get a lot of juice. So like cucumbers, celery, apples, pears, anything that when you stick in that juicer, you get a lot of fluid. The kidneys love that. Kidneys love cranberry and lemons and limes and hydration. So a lot of times, you know, I don't know, like in the 90s, I dated a guy that worked at Park Plaza Dialysis. And most people, and my dad was in dialysis before he passed, that is not how you want to spend your retirement, in a dialysis unit or in a home dialysis. Because what they're doing is they're taking all your urine out, filtering it, because your kidneys can't do that. And you're hooked up to a machine, you can't travel, you can't do things, but this is all because the kidneys were sick in the first place. And one thing that I learned from Mark working at Park Plaza is almost in a bigger unit like Park Plaza, someone dies almost every day in dialysis. They never code them as dead in dialysis. They say they fell asleep or they became unconscious. They wheel them down to the ambulance and they put them DOA on arrival at the hospital because they don't want the liability of dying in the dialysis clinic, nor do they want the other people freaking out in the dialysis clinic. But dialysis is very, very stressful on the body, you know, and you don't ever want to get to that point. And so that's like, to me, like, it's almost like the person who's willing to get an amputation over not giving up carbs or beer because they're diabetic. This is the same. You know, are we really not going to drink water and want to live that way in dialysis and go 3 times a week to get our urine pumped out of us? I mean, to me, that's like kind of stupid, you know, but it's like, get over it. Or the person who doesn't like vegetables, you know, like, get over it. You know, you have to have those things for the body to function properly. So anyway, the kidneys are super important. One other thing I want to tell you about kidneys is I use Dr. Christopher's kidney pills for kidney cleansing, but same as the liver. If you've already done the lemons for 2 months for the liver, you don't have to do them again for the kidneys. You can just go kind of into the kidneys.
Oh.
But the one thing I want to mention is when people do kidney cleansing, the most big symptom is this hurts. Because as the kidneys are expelling stones and sand and gravel, they're like, oh. And you know what I say is just take an ibuprofen or something. Because sometimes it gets like, they're like, oh, it hurts so bad, what do I do? Well, it's because they're expelling stuff from the kidneys. And they need to drink a lot of water. Another thing I want to tell you about the kidneys, which to me sounds kind of backwards, is that many times the people stress on their kidneys is because of their heart medications. So when people are on diuretics for heart medication, which is very common, they're depleting their hydration, but they're also depleting potassium. Potassium is like the #1 nutrient for the kidneys. It's one of the top things that potassium does. And what I've seen with people is they're on diuretics for their blood pressure, then their kidneys start failing, and they're going to be in and out of dialysis because of being on diuretics for a long period of time. And they're really stressing each other out. But I want to tell you a story about a friend of mine. My friend Colleen, her mom, ended up kind of just passing out 3 different times on trips. Like, she was on trips, one time to Cape Cod, one time to Florida, one time somewhere else, and she just like totally passed out. They had to take her to the emergency room. They didn't find anything wrong with her, and she's on heart medications. But they didn't ever know. They were worried she had a heart attack, but they never could prove she had a heart attack or didn't. Then Colleen invited me to go with her and her parents to France and Spain like 3 years ago. And the same thing happened to us on the trip, and I was with them when her mother passed out. And we're in the middle of nowhere, France. We're in the middle of like wine country, no ambulance, no hospital. And I had the luxury of using my software to do a scan on her in the moment. Because usually I found out about it like a week later. And in the moment, she had hypoalkalemia, which is like severe potassium deficiency. And since I was with them, and I knew she was on diuretics, I was like, have you drank any water? I never saw her drink anything all day long except 1 cup of coffee in the morning and usually 1 glass of wine at night. I never saw her drink water. And what her mom told me was she didn't drink water because she didn't want to inconvenience us to find bathrooms in Europe or bathrooms when she was on vacation. And every single time this happened to her, she was on vacation. She was with family or friends or whoever, and she didn't drink water
Didn't
because
want
she didn't want to be an inconvenience. Because she said she had a small bladder. So what was happening? She was putting herself into a coma state because she was dehydrated, she was on diuretics, and she was just pushing herself to the limit. But this is a person who's in her 70s who is basically, I don't know the shape of her kidneys right now, but when I do scans on her, I always see kidney issues. But she's not on dialysis yet. But you see how it all like goes in one big circle, and then you don't drink water, you're just kind of shooting yourself in the foot. And so we made her, we revived her, and we were in this little B&B, and we went and got 3 gallons of water. And we sat there and made her drink a gallon of water while we were sitting there, and she just perked right up. She was like back to normal. And then we made her drink a gallon of water a day the rest of the trip.
Yeah.
She didn't want to, but she was like, oh, I hate water. And I was like, well, too bad. We're not going to let you fall out on us again. Because that whole day our trip was focused on her. And that's fine, but that's why she felt she didn't want to be a nuisance or whatever. Okay, so I guess, I don't know how it's going to look on cardiovascular, but let's do that as the last thing. The liver, going back to the liver, in your body is like your oil filter. It is like a filter because it's spongy. But your arteries are like your oil, or your oil supply. So when we're looking at this whole system is the arterial system. And just like the nerves, it goes to everything. You have blood flow going to your lungs, you have it going to your kidneys. Nothing would function without blood and oxygen. And so this whole thing is super important too, because you know there's a lot of little ways to notice if you have poor cardiovascular. One thing is cold hands and feet. That can be a little thyroid too, but one thing, if you trip a lot, like if you're kind of walking and you tend to trip a lot because you're kind of not picking up your feet, but you're like, oh, tripped again. That's usually a sign. Younger people don't usually have this, but when older people have a crease in their earlobe, it looks like a fold or a wrinkle, that's a sign of arteriosclerosis that you can see on your ear. If you look at your ankles, I have boots on, but if you look like right here on your ankles and it's kind of purplish or bluish, you know, like it's not just looking like skin, that's a sign of atherosclerosis or arteriosclerosis. If you're laying in bed, like reading your iPad or your phone and your fingers fall asleep or become numb, that's a sign of poor circulation. Being forgetful, poor short-term memory, poor vision, hearing loss, because your head is a peripheral. Your blood has to pump it up through the carotid arteries and back down and out to your fingers and down to your toes. So if any of those things don't get proper blood flow, in thermal imaging you'll see it is totally black because there's no circulation, so it'll be totally cold under thermal imaging, which is a great way to look for how your circulatory system's working. But it's important to cleanse too, because there's like deposits that go into the blood. Even parasites can be in the blood, like blood flukes in particular, or liver flukes. And so just keep, Hannah said that you're as young and healthy as your arteries. And so you want to make sure your arteries are healthy. So what I use for arterial cleansing, and I would do liver cleansing first. Well, you can do either one first, but not at the same time, is I use her CircuFlow. She used to call it the Lord's formula because she thought it was like a cure-all for everything. And you take CircuFlow with aloe vera. And there's something about aloe vera being a bitter, and I only use her products for this because they've taken people out of angioplasty or out of bypasses, carotid artery disease. CircuFlow works like oxy powder in the arteries. It has certain ingredients in it that eat away the plaque. There's almost nothing else that can do that. So it eats away. Now the bitter in aloe, you take a swig, you take your pills. The bitter in the aloe delivers the herbs to the cardiovascular system. So you can't not do the aloe. You can't just do the pills. I mean, you can, but it won't be near as effective unless you use some other bitter like gentian root or Swedish bitters or Angostura bitters, any kind of bitter, dandelion, milk thistle. But you definitely need a bitter with the pills. And what they do is sweep the debris out. So I have a pretty amazing story about CircuFlow. I have a few, but I'll tell you one that happened to me in Hong Kong. I went to Hong Kong about 9 years ago, and they were testing the software I use, and I was meeting with the Minister of Health. And they presented a guy that to me just looked like he had circulation issues. He was kind of gray. You know when you go to a nursing home and a lot of people are kind of grayish in color, and not just pale, but kind of gray. And I didn't know anything about the man except for he had big fatigue issues and he had other non-specific issues and pain, but they had run every medical test on this guy and came up with nothing. He passed every EKG, EEG, ECG, blood test, everything. They couldn't find anything specifically wrong with him. And when I did the scan on him using the software, it showed, this was, I'll never forget this as long as I live, it showed a few of the herbs in CircuFlow. But one of the herbs in Chinese medicine that's like bottle brushes in Western medicine is called millipede or centipede. And I actually didn't know what that did because we were using Chinese stuff for this demonstration. And there's about 30 doctors in the room and they said, oh. And they explained to me that it's like bottle brush. That millipede as a symbol in Chinese medicine goes in, and as it crawls through the arteries, it sweeps out the debris. So it's exactly what CircuFlow does. I said, oh, it's arterial chelation. And I'm going to give you guys one of these books. There's a book about herbal arterial chelation that Hannah wrote. So I'm going to give you all one. I forgot to pass them out. Anyway, so I told the guy, and I told the doctors that, in my opinion, this guy was a heart attack waiting to happen. That he was a stroke or heart attack waiting to happen. His blood flow was terrible. And it was from a few things I saw. And the way he looked. And they kind of dismissed me. They were just like, whatever. I found out that night because he invited us to dinner. That man was, at the time, China's Minister of Defense. So he was our Colin Powell in that country. And so he was someone, like, because I said, well, if I send products to you, will you get them? And he was like, yeah, I'm like, I have say-so. I can get your products, you know? And I was like, okay, I don't know who you are. That night, he told us who he was. And they had made it a mystery during the presentation that day. Well, anyway, the point of the story is that I didn't have products with me. But my intention was to get back to Houston, mail him CircuFlow and aloe in like a 3-month supply because I knew he was in danger. And by the time I got back to Houston, which was a week later, I had an email from his son, who is a computer programmer in New York. His name's Leon, and he said, I regret to inform you that he had had a heart attack. Like literally 3 days after I saw him. And this is after everyone said he was fine, but he didn't die. And I said, can you please confirm that I can mail the products to your dad? In 3 months, he took CircuFlow and aloe for 3 months. I sent him 6 bottles of aloe and 3 bottles of CircuFlow. 6 months later, I get an email from the son who is telling me that they are so grateful that their father is back to normal. He's back to his old self. He has no symptoms of anything anymore, and his family is so thankful. And that's because he did herbal chelation, which is what he needed anyway. Now, I have a friend in LaPorte that's a doctor, and he had a very similar story. He's kind of one of those executive doctors. He has like that kind of club where you pay a membership and you have like special privileges to see him.
Yeah, white glove.
And other people can't get in to see him anymore because of healthcare and whatever. His father lived in, he's Indian, and his father-in-law had come in from South Africa, and every time he comes to Houston, which was like every other year, they did extensive medical testing on him and, you know, to make recommendations or whatever. They had just put his father-in-law through every test you can imagine, because they could, and 3 days later, he died in their living room. And every test that they did on his father showed fine. Again, EKG was fine, EEG was fine, blood pressure was fine, everything was fine. He dropped dead 3 days later of a heart attack. And he passed away, and he was in the doctor's living room, and that doctor's my friend. And he told me, because, you know, we know each other really well, he said, that goes to show you that a medical test, just like a colonoscopy, can say anything and say, oh, your heart's fine, and it's not fine. You know, because it's not measuring your carotid artery openings, it's not measuring your valves, it's not measuring other things. Just because you don't have high blood pressure doesn't mean there's not something to do here. Because if there's blockage, and if that blockage is in a major artery and it ever closes up completely, you're dead. You know, so it's not, I mean, to me, just like, CircuFlow is to me like one of those maintenance things. Like, I wouldn't recommend it for Ruth or Bryce because they're just young enough I wouldn't recommend it. But, you know, when people start hitting 30, 40, to me it's like a once a year thing. You know, I try to go through the body and cleanse everything once a year. You know, it's a 1 month thing. The other thing is a 2 month thing. By the time you get through the year, you're all new. And the last thing I want to say about that is that, you know, our bodies are brand new every 7 years.
Yeah.
Every cell, every piece of hair, every eyelash, every part of your liver is new in 7 years. So in 7 years, you're either going to be really super healthy or you're going to be worse than you are now, depending on what you do, including what you eat, what you drink, how much water you drink, what all you're doing. So I'm thinking with hydrogen water and C60, and plus what I do anyway, I should be pretty good off in 62. we're gonna have a reunion on my 62nd birthday. We're gonna have a workshop, and we're gonna go, okay, y'all, what do you think? Am I holding it together at 62 or not? But I mean, that's the goal. Is I don't want to be old and not active. I want to be old and active. I want to be old and doing stuff. And that's one last thing I'll say, and then I'm open to questions, is I went to Africa in 1988, and I went with someone that was my age. We were both like 26 years old. We did a safari, and everyone on the safari but us was in their 70s. It was like their life dream trip, and only 4 of us out of the original group could finish the safari. They were either too sick or too ill or too digestively messed up or ended up with food poisoning or ended up with something that none of them finished the trip. And I thought, well, how sad is that? That they wait their whole life to go. At 75 they go and they got, you know, because you go on a safari, it's a one-way thing. And they're not doubling back for you. If you can't leave the hotel in the morning because you need to be near the bathroom and you're going off in a Range Rover for 5 or 6 hours in a car, they're not waiting. They don't care how much you spent. You know, it's a one-way ticket. And then, so if you get left behind, you also have to find your own way back to Nairobi to fly home. It is not an easy trip. Like Egypt is not considered an easy trip. A lot of people get sick, they get dysentery, they get stuff. And one of the people that I met when I was in school for naturopathy was a gypsy woman who was 107 years old, and she was still teaching. She was the pet naturopath for Rod Stewart and the Queen of England. That was like her claim to fame. Was she was a Scottish gypsy, like for real. And she took care of all these famous people's pets. But she said something I'll never forget too. She said her definition of health was you can also have a hot dog and a beer and not suffer for it.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be able to do what you want to do to enjoy, but you can't live doing hot dogs and beer every day because that's gonna not be so good for you. But I always remember her. She was 107 and she would like laugh and then say something. Because she'd laugh at herself and then say whatever she was going to say. She was a riot, but she was so cute. I don't know how long she lived. I mean, that was 15 years ago. But she was 107 still teaching. And I thought about that and I thought that's true. I don't want to be so, like, cornered that I can't do anything. I can't have some pizza every once in a while, or I can't have some wine or whatever. But if we're going to have those things, then we just want to keep sure that everything's moving and everything's healthy and everything is cleansed, you know, all that stuff. The last thing I don't want to teach about this really today, but the last thing I do want to tell you is 2 things I have with me are the Fat Flush products, which I've done whole workshops on Fat Flush, and Fat Flush is just a way to also detoxify, but to lose weight really quick. One of my Houston clients a long time ago, and I'm not joking, she lost 42 pounds in 2 weeks.
No.
And it seems like that's impossible, and I would have said that's not possible. She was pretty round, like, you know, before. And she called me after 1 week and had lost 20-something pounds. And she said, do you think I just looked at the scale wrong, or is that possible? Well, what had happened was her kidneys weren't working. So with the Fat Flush, you have to drink so much water, and you have to do lemon water, and you have to do cranberry water. Well, through the process of drinking all this water and the lemons and the cranberry, things started working again. And it just took she said she was peeing constantly. Well, she peed off 42 pounds. I mean, I saw her at her husband's birthday party like a month later, and she went from like a size, like, you know, I don't know what size, 30 something, and she was down to a 16 in 2 weeks. I mean, she ended up losing 60 pounds in 6 weeks. But the first 40 came off just from everything working, which was her liver and kidneys mostly. I mean, she looked like a different person. I had seen her like 3 months before, and then I started her husband's thing, and I was like, dang, that worked. But I've had other clients who were like size 12 and 14s. They did fat flush, they did exactly what it says, and they got down to like 6 or 8 in like 2 to 4 weeks. Because if your elimination organs are working properly and you're not holding like pounds of poop and you're not holding water weight, your body's just gonna expel all that stuff and then get rid of it. But one friend of mine that was a person that did insurance out of Austin, y'all may know her, Deborah Day, if y'all know her. Anyway, she was one of those people that went from like a 12, 14 to a 6, and to this day she stayed a size 6, and that was over 10 years ago. Every January she does fat flush, because when she gains that 8 or 9 or 10 or 12 pounds, she goes back, she loses it, and then does the year normal, and then does it again. And it's just her one thing she does a year. She doesn't even do all this other stuff. But I know she does fat flush every year because she calls me or comes by and picks up products. So it's just one thing. And then the last thing is, I brought a few of these, but you'd have to know you need this, is a hormone cleanse. If you know that you have like endometriosis or breast cancer or any kind of female cancer or fibrocystic breast, it means you have too much estrogen. And too much estrogen can come from soy, from plastic bottles, from birth control pills and stuff like that. And the hormone cleanse is a big focus on the liver, but it has special herbs for pulling estrogen out of the body. And it's a 1-month process. So if you know, but you'd have to know you need that. That's not something I recommend everybody do, because not everybody is estrogen dominant. But if you have really heavy cycles, or you have like heavy bleeding, or you've had those kind of issues, then you probably need to do an estrogen cleanse. Estrogen's in everything. It's in our milk, it's in our meat, unless you're buying organic, it's in everything. Most things you eat out anymore are soy-based. You know, fast food is mostly soy, and you're just getting it everywhere. You just have to, that's another thing to cleanse, but only if you're having those particular discomforts. So any questions? That's like pretty much everything, but we started a little bit late, but I wanted to catch up for the sake of these guys being so nice to let us use their space. Anyone have a question about anything? So let me tell you what your handouts are, because basically I went through this already just talking, but you have some stuff.
Gwen, real quickly, what about the lymph system?
The lymph system is also a cleanse. I use homeopathy for the lymph system, or recommend people go to a lymph drainage specialist. I don't know, I lost my copies already. So I do recommend lymph cleansing too. I'm sorry. But usually I recommend, there's a few people in Houston I like that do lymph drainage technique. And there's some products like called Lymph Detox, like Apex has. They're very good. So every person got just directions for C60, even though that's already in an email to most of you. I gave you the detox order, which is the order to do things, and colon's right there in the top. And I put next to it what to do, like Candida, Himalayan salt, parasites, Himalayan salt, kidneys, Dr. Christopher's kidney formula. Does that mean that's the only thing you can do? No. There's products online, there's products at Whole Foods, there's lots of things out there. But it kind of tells you generally the order to consider doing things. The next page is the directions for doing detox. So the first page has what to do, like out of stuff I'd use. The second page is then how to do them, like specific instructions. So it tells you exactly what to take and maybe what to drain extra, how to use the pH strips. The next 2 pages are the fat flush instructions, which tell you which foods you can eat and which supplements you need to do the fat flush protocol. The supplements are important on the fat flush protocol because there's like a tub of psyllium. There's evening primrose, which is super important on the cleanse. There's a multi-herbal vitamin. There's an appetite formula. And there's a metaburn formula to get things like your stuff ramped up, having to do with metabolism. And it's important to get the effects. You can just eat the foods and still have effects, but the cranberry and lemon water are just as effective as the supplements. And the last page is the Himalayan salt instructions. So if you already have Himalayan salt at home, did you guys get a handout?
I don't have one, but I'll get one out.
I'll be happy to give them to you. The Himalayan salt, in case you already have Himalayan salt, then you have instructions here on how to, I just basically told you, you're just using a mason jar of water and salt. But it tells you how to dose it and how to take it. There's a book on Amazon called Water and Salt, and it has like 100 therapeutic uses of Soleil. It's a very good book. Just like there's a book on MMS that tells you all the things to use it for, like first aid, sinus congestion, all that stuff.
Gwen, if you don't eat meat, can you do it?
Do what?
The fat flush?
Yeah, it'd be, I mean, your sources of proteins would be gone because you can't do beans, you can't do nuts, you can't do, so you just not do any protein for 2 weeks.
But she can take the amino pills you just said me, because I don't eat meat either.
Yeah.
So you would just eat vegetables?
Yeah, because when you look at the list, you got eggs, you got meat, you got flax
I know.
oil, you got evening primrose oil. It's not gonna kill your body to not have meat for 2 weeks,
So
because
you
I
can have
fasted
fruit.
for up to
Oh,
40
I don't
days
have
before.
meat. I'm not worried about that,
But you can't do other sources of protein, so you
Calories
can't
and-
do your powders and your other stuff either, not to get the benefits. But you can just do a veggie-based one, but there's no fruits on it either. Fruits are out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's no fruits on fat
I
flush.
think it says 2 a day.
There is?
Fruits, 2 whole
2
portions.
whole portions
Oh.
a day.
I think I didn't do fruits, I just did
Choose
almonds.
one small apple.
Okay. Yeah, I think I didn't do fruit the last time I did it. So if 2 portions of fruit's enough, then, but I would follow everything else the same.
How long does that last? 2 weeks?
2 weeks. It's a 2 weeks body flush of all the organs. The psyllium is working on the colon, the lemons and cranberry are working on the liver and kidneys. It is a total body flush, but the side benefit of that particular thing is weight loss. If you don't have weight to lose, you won't lose weight, but if you have weight to lose, most people lose 15 to, well, this one lady, 40 pounds in 2 weeks. So you can lose weight quickly, and it stays off because it's mostly getting the kidneys and liver working again.
Sorry.
Do all this as well as doing like the colon cleanse together, the oxy powder, or should we do that first and then do the fat flush?
I would do a colon cleanse before I do anything. Yeah, it's 1 week, so you're not like, you're just giving yourself a little time.
That was the oxy powder?
Yeah, oxy powder is the one, if y'all don't do anything today except nothing else, I would do oxy powder. Because to me, it's the most important part of cleansing. If you did something as number 2, I would do either the hydrogen water or the C60. That's what I would do, and I wouldn't do both of those. I would pick one, see what your benefits are, and then if you want to add the other one later. I'm doing both because I'm just, but I added one after already being on the one for 2 months. So that's what I would do. Now, the other thing is an order form. So I've already told you what they all are, so I'm not going to repeat all that. But the order form, if you put what you want, we have a credit card machine on my phone. So if you want us to swipe your card, we can do that. But that is going to make kind of bottleneck. If you just want to put your information on the sheet, then I'll hand you products and we can make things go really quickly. If you don't want to get them today, of course there's no pressure. You can get them later. But if you want to get them today, I have these things here. I don't have everything I have, but I have things focused on detox and the C60 and the peroxide. I also have Intramax, and it's not on your sheet, but if you want Intramax, it's 65 instead of 80 today. So it's on sale, about $15. I just was an afterthought to put it on here. Okay, any last questions?
You were gonna mention Christine?
Oh, yes, I will.
So the
Thank
things
you.
on the fat flush, like those drinks, if you just drank those in addition to your just life, are they beneficial?
Mhm.
You're not doing the whole thing?
Yeah, that's what Deborah has always done, is the Fat Flush cocktail, which is the psyllium and the cranberry. She does that year round as her keeping the intestines clean thing.
Yeah.
And she loves it. And I do it occasionally, but I won't do it all year long. I'll do it like in phases.
And what is your opinion on intermittent fasting? Because that's all like
I love
the
intermittent
rage
fasting.
right now.
I love it, but I would say that people already have to be somewhat right to begin with. Like a really sick person shouldn't fast because
But a lot of times they say, and I've heard that, but I've also heard that fasting heals sicknesses.
it can, but most people at home don't know what they're doing. And so if someone...
Well, I'm talking about it's like eating, but just eating in a concentrated time. Like you're not totally doing a water fast on your own.
Right, yeah, water fasting I would recommend, but if someone just says, I'm not gonna eat 12 hours a day, I think it's great.
Well, what about longer? Like some people say you really get the benefits when you hit that 18-hour mark.
We go into ketosis.
And you eat all your calories in like a 6 to 4 hour window.
Yeah, I couldn't do it because of being hypoglycemic. That would not
See, and
work
that's
for me.
how, do you just get through that?
I do Master Cleanse when I fast, and I've done as long as 40 days, but the glucose in Master Cleanse keeps my blood sugar fine. But I couldn't function if I didn't have something within 12 to, I couldn't go even 10 hours. So I don't do that kind of fasting myself, but I do Master Cleanse once or twice.
Was there a way to heal hypoglycemia issues?
I mean, if I don't eat, then I don't focus. So or
I know,
don't
well,
sleep.
and that's the ironic thing, because they say fasting helps improve focus.
It does to a certain degree. If I fast 10 or 12 days, I'm super focused, but when I got to 21, 30, 40 days, I was a space case.
Okay.
So there's some period of time that's different for everybody.
And is it different for men than women?
Men
It seems like everything's on the man, like the research.
I think men just generally respond faster to things. Like men on Fat Flush do twice as good as women as far as health and weight. They just do because their metabolism is different. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, fasting, I don't know that many guys that have actually fasted, maybe Joe, but I don't know that many that have, so I can't speak for that.
Well, my husband,
Yeah. 10
when
days.
my husband
Did you
has,
feel
he
more
likes
sharp
it.
or less sharp?
No, I absolutely feel more sharp, and obviously you don't get the hunger pains after a couple days. But of course, what's interesting is you still have bowel movements. To your point, 2 or 3, 4, 5 days after you even start eating. And I'm not a big guy, so that just kind of shows you even how much is in my intestines.
Back, yeah.
Well, and then there's a period of juicing until dinner, so like you would do like these kind of drinks that you're
Right.
saying, and then eat your food at night, you know what I mean, or eat your, so you're not digesting all day.
I know, but everybody has different theories.
Yeah.
For me, meat works for me because I'm O, and every time I go meatless, which I've been vegetarian several times, I didn't feel great.
Sure, right.
So I think everybody's different. So I can't say that everything works for everybody because it just doesn't.
Right.
But I think that that's like one of the big questions that I
Gotta
tell
try
people
it.
they have to go by how they feel. If they don't feel good being vegetarian, or if they don't feel good fasting, they need to not probably do it.
Yeah.
But get past the 3 days, because before that it's a psychological. You know, the first 3 days the hunger is psychological, and then you get past that and you just don't care. So I think some of it's mental. I want to say one thing before people start leaving is Beverly introduced me to someone named Christine Page. Some of you guys might know of her. Do y'all know her? She has, actually, can you pull up YouTube and Christine Page? Because I want to play a short 2-minute clip of her. She's going to be coming to Houston as my guest and Beverly's guest in April, and the week after tax weekend. And she is a
21, 22.
21st, 22nd. She is a, I wanted to go to the one, go down that's like why people get ill.
Yeah, and I was gonna say on the oxy powder, Dr. Group stuff is awesome. So I've actually used oxy powder several times.
It is awesome. There's a 2-minute and 22-second recording of her that
Yeah,
is.
which is that's for the colon cleanse.
Gift of illness.
Is that what it's called? The gift
What
of
did we
illness?
call it? The
Is this one right here?
Oh, it is that top one.
Top one,
If
okay.
we can hear it, I want to play it because she's an MD, but she's incredible, and she's going to be talking about women's health and intuition in April, and she'll be my guest in Houston. But I wanted you to hear her because this is really important, just what she says right here.
That's as loud as it'll go.
Okay, so everybody will have to